Alright guys, it is early April and this is my check-in video on owning the X3M competition since middle of September. I had a Tesla Model 3 Performance, which I did a couple of videos on at the end of the lease of that car, talking about the things I liked, the things I disliked, and after 3 years, you've fully understood what the car is, what it isn't, things like that. So to an extent, after really only having owned the car for about 6 months now or so, there's still some things that I probably don't know yet, but those are just kind of long-term ownership quirks and features. But 6 months is a long time in terms of like the initial stuff that you found out about the car. So this is just a kind of a 6 month or so update on things I like and things that I don't like about this car. And I'm going to start with the things that I don't like. There's really not a whole lot that I don't like about the car. I mean, obviously, when you spend a lot of money on a vehicle, usually you get something pretty nice. This is no exception. I paid $72 for the car. Original invoice on it was right around $92,000 or $93,000. Previous owner, he got it fully loaded, very well spec'd, and also put some pretty decent money into modifications and things like that. So the first thing that I don't like about this car is the way that it sounds on a cold start up. It's no secret that the twin turbo straight six BMWs kind of sound like trash on cold startups, and they really don't sound great until 3,000 RPMs or so and higher. After that, they sound incredible. Like, this car sounds amazing once you get the revs up there. But yeah, cold starts for about 10 seconds or so, man, it's just like it's bad. And I'll be honest, it's a little embarrassing. Anytime someone that's hearing it start up for the first time hears it and kind of like acts surprised, like, oh, you got a luxury car that's sounding like that. But I have to remind them there's an M logo on the car and performance is loud. That's the only justification that I can give them. Now, this car does have it has an aftermarket mid-pipe, and it has aftermarket exhaust on there. It has the advanced auto work, I believe, mid-pipe. So the resonators are gone, and it has the Dynon mufflers, or muffler on there. So it's a little bit louder than the factory exhaust. The downpipes are still stock, cats are still stock. I didn't want to touch that because, the whole emissions thing and warranty thing and check engine lights, I don't want to deal with that. Plus the smell of having a catless car is blah. Been there, done that, no thanks. So yeah, first thing I don't like, the car sounds like trash on a cold start. But thankfully it's not really a long period of time that it goes, maybe 10 seconds or so, and then it quiets down. Even with the flaps open, there's not a whole lot of noise. It's still pretty civilized, but when you get on it, flaps open or not, it is a loud car. And by the time you're really getting up there in the RPMs, you've got that glorious straight six sound going. So that's the first thing I don't like. Second thing I don't like. The ZF transmission has 3 selectable levels of shifting, and there's a little rocker switch on the shifter knob that lets you dictate the shift speed and how long it will hold the RPMs before shifting to the next gear. Now, the first level is, it's super chill, super laid back, super relaxed, and I get that. It's the comfort setting. The middle setting, in my opinion, it holds the RPMs a little too long, and I wish it was maybe halfway between where the first setting is and where it is right now. Maybe some down the road transmission tuning can address that, but I've kind of learned to live with it, and it's not bad. It's only maybe when you're going uphill, it'll hold the RPMs at 4,000 RPM, where I would rather it just go ahead and shift. I never drive with the level 3 setting turned on in the automatic shifting mode. Now, the paddle shifting mode, it's always in the level 3 because it just feels so good to manually shift. But yeah, that's the second thing that I don't like. I wish it would shift up to the next gear a little bit sooner in the middle setting. Third thing I don't like, and kind of shouldn't be surprised about this after coming from the Tesla, is the backup camera on this car kind of sucks, if I've got to be honest. It's really dim. I did go into the settings for the camera and cranked up the brightness all the way, and even then it's just barely, it's barely acceptable to me. So I'm not really a fan of the backup camera. I think even my wife's Volvo, the XC90, it has a better camera. Alright, idiots can't drive. No surprise there. Where was I? Okay, yeah. Backup camera, it sucks. That's pretty much the only thing I have to say about it. I wish there was a higher quality image. I wish it was a brighter, could capture more light. For what the car cost, putting a better camera, I don't think it's an unreasonable ask. But again, it is what it is. We're stuck with it. It's the way it is. Let's see, the next thing I don't like, again, it's kind of one of those culture shocks coming from a car that doesn't use any gasoline, is that the gas mileage on this thing is not good at all. It sucks. Around town, you're looking at maybe 17 or so average, for me at least. On the interstate, if you're being easy on it in comfort mode and all that, and you're just cruising around 75, 80, I expect around 24 to 25 miles per gallon. And again, performance car, that's the excuse. Performance comes at the expense of fuel economy. So no surprise there. It is a little bit disappointing seeing that kind of fuel economy, knowing how vastly different and better the B58 cars are. But again, this engine has a second fuel pump, whereas the B58 only has one. So yeah, can't really be too disappointed. It's about the same mileage that my Scat Pack Charger got. Another little thing that I didn't like is that the cover for the cargo area, it's got this little spring-loaded button that you push down so you can remove the little rolly up cover thing. I don't know what the technical name is called, but there's a spring-loaded button that you push in to remove it. Once it's removed, it's like that spring it isn't under tension anymore, and it's just loose enough in there that any sort of music that has any resemblance of a low end, it rattled the spring. And it took me a while to figure out, A, where was that rattle coming from, and B, how to get rid of it. And I ended up, stay in your lane. I ended up putting the cable for the rear dash cam camera, I put the cable over across the button, like, and then push the trim piece down over the top of the button and push the trim piece down on top of the cable. So basically I've got like a little USB cable going across the top of that button, but it pushes down on the spring and puts it under a little bit of a tension, just enough that there's no rattle anymore, which great, nice and quiet. Last thing, and this is kind of a dumb little thing, the app for the car has like a 360 degree view mode if you want to look at the surroundings of the car when it's parked and you're not near the car. It's kind of hit or miss, and when it hits, it takes a long time to take all the pictures from the cameras and then to send it to the phone. It's like it's on dial-up. It's bad. So that's the only other thing that I really don't like. I mean, and it's kind of, it's pedantic, I know, but again, it's one of those things where the Tesla was fast with that feature on that car, and also it gave you a live view of the recording of the dash cams. So I like that. And speaking of the dash cams, the built-in drive mode dash cam is absolute poverty resolution quality. It's bad. It doesn't record all the time, so if you're just driving along, it's not going to record anything. It only records when you get in a wreck or when there's like an impact or something like that. And I don't know all of the exact details on that. I've got a Vantru N4 in the car, and the previous owner, he put one of those like stealth, I don't know what it's called, I'll put an annotation on the video, that mounts up behind the rearview mirror, which is kind of cool, but it's really low quality also. The Vantru image quality is superb, excellent at night, and it really does a good job of not kind of smearing the image when the light isn't perfect. And also it's got the rear camera on there too. So I like that. It runs off a battery bank, which charges with the 12 volt plug down there. So when the car is running, it's charging the battery and powering the camera, and when the car turns off, usually the battery has enough juice to keep the camera running for another several hours, which I could hardwire it, but that's kind of another can of worms I really don't want to get into, because the wiring in the car is very sensitive and finicky. I've read that you can kind of put a tap on one of the fuses in the back of the car, but I really don't want to mess with all that. It does the job well enough for what I want it to do, so no complaints there. So yeah, those are the things that I don't like about the X3M. There's a whole lot to like, and I'll try to edit this thing down to not last too long. But I'm just about at the dealer, getting new tires on, some Michelin Pilot all season 4s, moving up to a different size, going to the 295s in the back, so a little bit more meat in the back. Not a ton, but every little bit helps. That's what she said. But it's not cheap. They've quoted me right at $2,400 for all 4 tires, mounted, balanced, rotated, alignment done, all that junk. So yeah, it's gonna sting, but gotta do it. There's no tread left on these back tires at all. So
Delete lockout.
I will
Auto lockout.
shut up.
Delete lockout.
All right, so that is that for now, and I'm going to drop this thing off here, get some new tires put on there, and after that we'll be back on the road and we will go over the things that I like about the car. So anyways, see y'all in a little bit. All right, $2,500 later, I am finished, and I can already tell a big difference with these new tires. This is good. All right, it is time to get to the fun stuff. Talk about the things that I like. First things first. The paint. I love this Marina Bay blue metallic paint. It is beautiful, and this car absolutely glows in the sunlight. Another thing I like is that the previous owner had it ceramic coated, so that was one less thing I had to deal with, but I did get the front end PPF'd, as well as the carbon fiber mirror caps and the kind of like the part of the roof between the front of the sunroof and the top of the windshield. So I got those areas PPF'd to help protect it. So Marina Bay blue paint, amazing color. There's another guy here in town, he has an M5 with the same color, and without fail I get tons of compliments. Gas station, going to places to eat, things like that, just kind of everywhere. People commenting on the color. So BMW really knocked it out of the park, and the guy that does body work for Tavares, Jack, on his Jack Builds channel, he rebuilt that Evo, and he used Marina Bay blue metallic as the color when he rebuilt it. So that was pretty cool. Let's see, next thing I like, just the aesthetics and the styling. I really dig the way it looks. It's aggressive, but it's not over the top, and the looks of the M3 and the M4 for this generation, they really haven't grown on me. I think everything else with the cars, with the M3 and the M4, look good, and the M2 as well. But the styling on this is great. I think that the changes they made for the LCI, the little nips and tucks here and there, they were good improvements. So overall, the vehicle styling is great. It's aggressive enough that if you know what it is, then you kind of know, but it's not over the top, other than the bright metallic blue paint. But the styling isn't tacky or gaudy. It's tasteful, but still aggressive, and I really like that. Let's see. The next thing I like is the way that the car sounds after 3,000 RPMs. I think that the exhaust note is awesome. I don't know what these things sound like stock, but mine sounds just rad once you get it over 3,000 RPMs. The active exhaust flaps being open only makes it that much more rad. So yeah, love the way it sounds, but as previously discussed, low RPMs, kind of ratty sounding. Let's see, next thing on the list I like, the infotainment. It's nice to have CarPlay back after I had it with the Golf R, I had it with the Scat Pack, and I lost it with the Tesla. But to Tesla's credit, the infotainment was pretty good, but I always just use my phone screen for Waze and Spotify and stuff like that. I didn't really dig the map accuracy on the Tesla, and the map accuracy on this car is also kind of suspect at times, telling me that there's traffic in areas where there's not. So I stick to CarPlay and it works. It does like to disconnect every now and then, but reconnecting it is usually just a matter of removing it from the known Bluetooth devices, and then going into the infotainment and hitting to re-add a device and telling it to add my phone again. So it's only about 10 seconds to re-add the phone when it does disconnect, but other than that, the infotainment's great. The screen is nice. The gauge cluster is really easy to read, and it doesn't feel too tacked on, if that makes any sense, in terms of them just like slapping an iPad up on the dash. I think that the other LCI cars that have the big iDrive 8 wraparound panoramic screen, some cars it pulls off a pretty decent fit, but in some other cars it looks weird, like it's floating in no man's land, like it doesn't really belong. But I get why they're doing it. But I like the way that this infotainment screen sits on the dash. Next thing I like, especially after coming from the Tesla, is the autopilot. And this thing, the full self-driving thing, or not full self-driving, but the assisted driving feature on this car, I love. It's so much nicer than the Tesla. Now, does it hold the lane exactly like the Tesla? Not quite. But here's the thing that I like about it. It doesn't fight you when you try to change lanes. And if you have it activated and you do want to change lanes, you don't have to turn it off. You don't have to hear that boop boop. That it makes it. The Teslas make this double beep sound when you deactivate it, and then when you want to start going again, you want to keep the car in the lane that you just changed into, you have to turn it back on. Well, on this car, you just have to hit the turn signal. It changes lanes for you, and then once you're in the other lane, it just keeps going. And that's how it should be. That's how the XC60 Volvo that we had before and our XC90, both of them do that as well. It makes sense. I don't know why the Teslas are like that, but you have to literally turn the cruise control off and then turn it back on. And every time you do that, you hear a beep when it deactivates, and then you hear another beep when it reactivates. It's annoying, especially if you got wife or kids trying to snooze on a road trip or something like that. They're just constantly hearing that beep beeps and boops that it's making, and it gets old. So love that about the BMW. Now again, the lane keeping is not quite as accurate, but it's good enough that you really don't have to intervene hardly at all. You just kind of lightly keep your hand on the wheel. It doesn't need the pressure of like putting your hand on the wheel and kind of like putting some pressure on the wheel. It's like a capacitive touch. So as long as your hand is just touching the steering wheel, that's good enough, and it keeps it from kind of giving you that little nanny warning of, hey, put your hands back on the wheel. So cruise control and the driver assist, love it. Let's see. I like the HUD. That's the next thing I like. Again, the Golf was the only other car I believe that had that. But the HUD on this is bright, it's clear, it's super easy to read. There's not a cloud in the sky, and it's 1 o'clock in the afternoon, so it's perfectly legible. I really like it. It gives you all the information that you need. You can customize a couple of things here and there. on there, and if you change to the M Sport driving mode, then it changes what's on the HUD to show your RPMs, gear, some stuff like that. So I really like that. Let's see. The seats in this car are very comfortable. Now, the Tesla seats were amazing as well, but they didn't have the side bolstering that I would have preferred, especially for a performance model. Now, I'm glad that they're making the change for this new refresh version of the Model 3, and I assume the Model Y performance. They're putting the bucket seats in there. But they were comfortable, but they weren't supportive when you were, getting, aggressive with it. But these have the perfect balance of comfort and support with the sides. I really like that. Now, I have ridden in, or I've driven an M3 that had the carbon bucket seats with the little thing kind of around your crotch area, and I did not like those seats. I have a bad lower back to begin with, but they just weren't comfortable, and I didn't spend much time driving it around. It was on the BMW M-Town thing where they come to the dealership with a bunch of M's and you get to drive them around, and that was what I jumped in, and I really didn't dig the carbon bucket seats, but these are really nice. I really like these. Now, they're not as plush as like an X7 or the X5 seats that are a little bit softer, but the combination of the side bolstering, the little M logos, the leather, it's all great, and I really like the way that the seats feel. And to get the AC seats back, I had them in the Charger, and here in Alabama, it's a huge help to have air-conditioned seats. It sounds like kind of like a dumb little thing, but it makes a difference, especially like if you're already sweaty. So, really like the seats. Let's see, what's next? Buttons. We have buttons for pretty much everything that you want buttons for. HVAC controls, you got buttons for that. I really like that. You got buttons for your heated seats. You've got buttons for, let's see, like the little favorites, row of favorites that you can do. And I really like that. Again, coming from the Tesla, which had no buttons at all except the little two steering wheel, like scrolly wheel nub things, which, again, to Tesla's credit, they did the things that you needed them to do. But that was it. You didn't have buttons for anything else. And it would have been nice if we could have gotten a couple more buttons for some of the things in the Tesla, but whatever. I hate that they're taking this stuff away for the new LCI versions of these cars with the iDrive 8 system. iDrive 9, I guess, is it? I don't know if it said iDrive 9 yet or what, but anyways, I like the buttons that we have in this car, and it'll be hard to relinquish that whenever the day comes to get rid of this car. So, let's see. Next thing I like is the high beams, specifically the automatic high beams. The Tesla high beams are the whatever logic it used to automatically turn on the high beams. It was dumb as a bag of hammers, man. It sucked. It would blind people randomly and flash people randomly on the road. It was just stupid, and I never used it because of that. Until you use the cruise control, when it basically forces you to use it and you can't turn it off, and I didn't like that. So to have a really good automatic high beam system on this car is great, and I love the way it kind of like opens up a kind of a wall of light. That's a really cool thing. So yeah, dig that. Let's see. Another thing, jumping back to the autopilot, that I like is that when it comes to a stop, it feels natural. It stops the way a human being would stop, and the Tesla didn't. I can't really explain it. It's like it waited too long to start braking, and it would kind of make you nervous a little bit, like, is this car actually going to stop? It would, but it would be very aggressive, and it always made me uncomfortable letting it do that when there were cars behind me, because I didn't want someone behind me to not be expecting it, and all of a sudden the Tesla just like hit the brakes really hard to stop, and the person behind me not be expecting it, and to rear end me. So to have a car that gradually slows down like a normal person, it's really nice. And it's one thing that my wife actually kind of complimented it on. She's like, wow, it doesn't feel like a robot trying to stop the car. It stops like a human being. So yeah. Let's see. Sticking with the autopilot thing, there's no phantom braking at all in this car. It's a problem with the Teslas, especially when you're going like over hilly roads, or if there's like shadows like going under trees and stuff like that. It can mess with the autopilot on the Teslas, and it'll have what's called phantom braking, and it will just hit the brakes for no reason. And again, you have to be anticipating that at all times, because if there's someone behind you that's just driving normally, and all of a sudden your car's like hitting brakes for no reason, it can take other drivers. They can be caught off guard, and again, might get rear-ended because of it. So there's no phantom braking with the autopilot system on this car. I get it. The Tesla was being overly cautious, but it was to a fault. Next thing I like about this car, the automatic wipers are very good. I had great auto wipers in the Golf. Didn't have it in the Charger at all. And the Tesla auto wipers, oh my God, it was garbage. It was so bad. It'd be like barely misting rain, and those things would just be going like full blast. Stupid. So yeah, automatic wipers in this car are great. Kind of the only like weird pet peeve is that if I get home and I park and I want to wash the car, if I don't wait long enough, the car will still kind of technically be on, and I'll start hitting the foam cannon on there, and it'll start like automatic wipers will start coming on. So it's a little button on the side of the stalk that I always forget to turn that off when I do car washing. So yeah, automatic wipers, very good. Let's see, what's next? Just overall, the fit and finish of everything inside this car, other than that one little weird spring-loaded thing in the back that I already mentioned, the fit and finish in this thing is just absolutely flawless. Again, you're paying MSRP for one of these things, or you're paying $70,000, $80,000, $90,000 for something. You want it to be good, and I'm glad that for an expensive vehicle like this, I'm glad that I have a very well put together interior. I've upgraded the center console with carbon fiber. The rest of the car, you got the carbon fiber strip across the main dash on the doors in the front and rear. That's another thing. The rear feels as premium and high quality as the front does. Some other companies, they'll kind of cheap out on the back seats, like cheaper plastics in the doors and things like that. But on this thing, everything is just solid. No gaps or weird creaks or rattles or anything like that. Everything is just very well put together, and again, it should be. So yeah, great interior. The safety nannies in this car are customizable, and I really like that, because there's some that I do want. You have a dedicated menu where you can go in there and kind of fine-tune exactly what you want the car to be proactive with warning you about, and when to just kind of just keep its mouth shut. But the Tesla can't do that. And it was infuriatingly bad with the collision detection and the lane departure in that car, because it was so loud, and it was like to the point where it's startling, because you might just be casually changing lanes and the car thinks the Tesla would think I'm gonna drive off the road, so it'd be like, like making this like just loud ass beeps, and just no, I know what I'm doing, let me drive my car. Thankfully, on this one, everything is completely customizable. You can turn it off, you can turn it on, you can set your tolerance levels and things like that. Really nice. Let's see, what else? Last thing, 360 degree parking camera is clutch. I love that you have more visibility into. College roommate getting some work done on his house. Anyways, I like that you have full visibility, and it's wild that the Teslas don't have that. I don't know if it's just a matter of the positioning of the cameras don't facilitate a 360 view or something. I don't know. I think Elon's tweeted about it a couple of times in the past that it's coming, but I'll believe it when I see it. But until then, I have the 360 view on this thing, and it's really good. So, last but certainly not least, things that I like about this thing is it is a fast vehicle. Now, it's not Tesla Model 3 performance fast off the line, but it's close. It's shockingly close. Now, you do have to go through the kind of the song and dance of getting the mode set right and the traction control turned off and all these things to get launch control activated. But the nice thing about it is that you can set up one of your 2 M buttons to be fully set up for that, where the traction control is fully disabled and you've got it in the manual mode, level 3 for the transmission shifting, and at that point it's just, if the car is warm and you meet all the kind of the other criteria, like the steering wheel can't be pointed more than a certain number of degrees to the side. But when this thing launches, it's shockingly fast. I shouldn't be surprised with how much power it has, but if you get a good launch and you got good road conditions, the best draggy time I've gotten 0 to 60 in this thing, hang on, let me pull it up. It's very close to what the Tesla did. 3.55 seconds. Again, that is rolling out. And unlike the Tesla, when this thing is on a highway and you get on it, it rips. And the Tesla doesn't. Once you're over 80 miles an hour or 75 or so in the Tesla, the power just falls off. And it's not a fast car. It's fast from a dig, but that's about it. I know that the like things like the Plaid, like those are ridiculous at any speed, but specifically, coming from the Model 3 performance, this thing is more impressive on the highway. And I really have only done it a couple of times, late at night, coming home from a late night gig or something like that, but it's pretty impressive. Going through corners in the car, very, very different from the Tesla. The Tesla just sort of broke the laws of physics with how it could pull the car through. This one you do have to be a little bit more careful. The back end on this thing will swing around. Even though it does have X-Drive, the front wheels aren't doing a whole lot for you when you're going through corners, really hard. It's going to be behaving almost exclusively like a rear-wheel drive vehicle. So if you're expecting some sort of physics-defying all-wheel drive system, this isn't it. I can definitely tell, launching hard, which I've only done a few times, you can tell that it's got you can tell that the front wheels are helping, but that's about it. Traction control system in the car is very good, though, I will admit. Just getting the tires replaced, I'll put a picture of what one of the back tires looked like. It was bad. It was practically bald. And still, even in rough weather, certainly not willing to push my luck to see how good the traction control system is, but in situations where I would be accelerating, where I would mentally be prepared for the back end to break loose, it never did, and you'd see the little traction control light come on. So traction control in this car, very good. So I guess we can add that to the list of things that I like. So yeah, awesome car, especially for people like me who are dad, got 2 kids. They do sports, so we've always got the baseball bag back there and like a little baseball swinging trainer thing for the kid. Gigging musician, it's nice to not have to play Tetris in the back of my car after every show at 2 a.m. in the bar parking lot. The extra space is certainly nice, and although I did have an M340i ordered, which I'll post a couple of pictures here, it got stuck in shipping purgatory down in Mexico, and the lease for my Tesla was up, so I had to have something to drive, and it wasn't a matter of, oh, it'll be here in a week or two. It was we have no clue when this car will arrive. So unfortunately, I had to pass on that and find something else in a hurry. But fortunately, the X3 was always on my list of cars that I really liked, but buying them new was way out of my budget. I really didn't feel like spending $90,000 on a new car. Even though I could get one exactly how I wanted it, it was still it was not practical for us and our budget and our needs. And all the used ones were just a basic black interior or like a white or black or silver car. And I've already had 2 gray cars, a white car. I wanted something different. And when this thing showed up in Atlanta, where I was already going to be taking the Tesla anyways to drop off for the lease return, with this paint and this brown leather interior and all the carbon fiber and like literally every factory option that you can get on the car, it was like it was meant to be. Like, that sounds cheesy, but you know, it kind of is what it is. And I'm glad that the previous owner took exceptional care of the car. It was his kind of like a garage queen for him. He drove it commuting on the highway to visit family, and other than that, it just kind of hung out in his garage. So it was, I don't want to call it a unicorn, but it was definitely one of those cars that it seemed like all the planets and the stars aligned. So I got what I feel like is a very fair price for the car. Very good condition, low miles, very well taken care of. You know, it's a good car so far, and we will see how the next year plays out, see how the next 2 years play out. You know, 3 years is about how long I hold on to cars. But you know, I'm kind of at the top of the food chain in terms of this category of vehicle, so I don't know what would be next, other than, well, like a Cayenne. You know, what's the next step for a M owner is to go with a Porsche, but what will that do that this doesn't already do? It'll be slightly bigger. There's the X3M, maybe an M Sport, but going from a uppercase M to a lowercase m, that feels like it would sting a little bit. And even the X3M competition, it's not that much bigger. I feel like it would be like small percentages here and there, maybe in terms of performance, looks, space, but realistically, this thing, it has the space that I want and that I need. We're not going to have any more kids, so you know, we're good there. It holds all of my band equipment. It looks great. It's fast. I mean, you're never done. As a car guy, you're never done, but in my brain, I'm kind of going through the Rolodex of what could be next, and I don't really know. I kind of dig the new little mid-size Rivian that they just unveiled, but I know that those are a long ways away from delivery and production. And honestly, I'm not ready to get back into another EV right now, especially with the charging infrastructure down here in the Southeast. I'm not ready for it yet. I drove nearly 500 miles when I picked up this car. I drove to Louisville for the Louder Than Life concert last year. Non-stop. I didn't stop. I just got in the car and drove like 480, 490 miles. It was great. I didn't have to worry about range. I didn't have to worry about where am I going to charge, how long am I going to sit here. I didn't have to sit there and mentally plot my path for the trip. I just got in the car and I drove, and it was nice. Now, it wasn't cheap for the gas, but it was nice to just get in the car and drive. So I have been rambling as usual, but that's going to wrap up the 6-month check-in with owning the X3M competition. Definitely an awesome car, and I can't wait to see how the next 6 months play out, the next year play out. We'll see. One thing I will note, since filming the video, the comments about moving from whatever the OEM tire spec is to, and I'll read out what I got. On the front, I moved up to the 265 40 21s, and on the rear, 295 35 21s, and I got the Michelin Pilot all season 4s. Again, not cheap, but the different tire size, I guess it's a different sidewall height, kind of gives it a little bit more of a squishiness, and it's just enough apparently to soften the ride a tad. I absolutely can feel that. I can feel that 100%, that the ride quality is softer. So the people who are saying that on Bimmer Post and Reddit, absolutely correct. So I will echo their comments that I could definitely feel a softer, better quality ride from these new tires. So, all right, that wraps it up, and I will catch you guys in 6 months or whenever in terms of my next BMW update. So stick around, and I will see you guys later. Take care.